what I want to do now is I want to share a little bit about my journey in Mary Kay. Many of you know me, and a lot of you don't know me. This may be your very first Mary Kay event ever. And so welcome to the virtual Mary Kay world. I just wanted to share a little bit about my journey. And, I know it's the year 2020, and I know that it's been a fun, interesting year, hasn't it? I want to say 2020 is not over yet. And I hope that one thing that I think we all collectively realized after our awards night back in July was there was this sense after our awards night of almost like, God, I love these women. I mean, literally, God, I love these women, and God, thank you for Mary Kay. Because after the spring that we had with COVID and a lot of the loss and the things that we have experienced through, I believe that you start to see and value the things that enrich your life, and you begin to savor more of that, which is really, really important. And we got to really experience the joy that our Mary Kay community brings. And so I started my Mary Kay business, 19 years ago, and I would have put myself in the category of maybe least likely to be a Mary Kay gal. I really wasn't a big makeup person. I really wasn't like a groupie girl. And I think what happened with that was, have you ever been in a group of girls where they, stab you in the back, or they talk about you to others, and that kind of stuff just really turned me off. And I think I had just been in one more group of people who had, told my secrets or learned something that someone said about me. And I think in college, I just made this decision that I just didn't like women anymore. And I kind of put women all in the same category. And I started hanging out with dudes because I thought, guys don't tell your secrets, and they don't stab you in the back. And honestly, they don't really care. And so it was like a bunch of guys and me. I will say that I love to win. I'm very competitive. I love a challenge. And so I hung out with all these guys in the business school. And when I was graduating, I interviewed at 13 different companies. And I competed with all these guys that I hung out with, and I got what I would say was the golden job. They only offered it to one person, and it wasn't the guys, it was me. And it was like, haha, I won. And it was a Fortune 100 consumer products company in Cincinnati. And I worked in finance and accounting. And, when I was interviewing all these places, I always told the interviewer that, I'm looking for the best match, and I wanted to serve. But I also knew there were three qualities that I really was looking for in a career. And one was I really wanted to work with people. I really wanted to do a variety of tasks. And number three, I knew I needed to be challenged. Like I knew I wanted it to be pushed. And if you're wired that way, you understand what that means. But I just never wanted to be in a place where it got boring. Like I wanted to always be to be my best. And so while I'm really grateful for that company, I learned a lot. I worked with incredible people. I soon realized what the term rat race meant. And if you've never been in the rat race, you maybe don't know exactly what that is. But I was actually began living the rat race. And the rat race was where you wake up in the morning and it's dark, and then you race to work, and you get there before anyone else gets there, because if you're there, no one knows when you got there if you're the first one there. And you start working, and then you eat lunch in your cubicle, and then you leave work at night and it's dark, and you go home and you eat, and then you go right to bed, and then you get up in the morning and it's dark, and you race to work to be the first one there, and you work all day, and you eat lunch at your cubicle, and you work through lunch, and then you leave work and the moon is out and it's dark, and then you go home and you eat dinner and you go to bed and you wake up the next morning. And it was like that over and over and over again. And that was the season of my life where I really was living out, and I recognized the difference between living and existing. And I recognized, oh my God, I'm existing. Like I'm moving my body through space and time, like from location to location and back and forth, but I really wasn't living. And if you were here at the beginning of our program and you saw my welcome or my intro video, you can tell like I'm someone that likes to live. Like I want to max out life. And so I was like 20 years old and I felt like I was dying. Like I felt like something inside of me was just like being snuffed out slowly. And so that's a season where I realized that, yeah, I still want to be challenged. I want to work with people and I want variety, but there's a fourth quality that is actually much more important than the others. And that's that I needed fulfillment. Like I needed a career or a life existence that felt like I was devoting it to meaningful work. And so I really think that God used that season of my life to prepare my heart. Because honestly, had it not been so hard and so awful and so terrible, I'm not sure I would have been opened to Mary Kay. And so I think that all that was for a reason that I went through that. And so when a friend of mine from college began selling Mary Kay, my first thought was, well, we'll see how long this lasts. It had nothing to do with Mary Kay. It had more to do with her. Like she was just kind of flighty and would flip from thing to thing. And so I was just sort of like, well, we'll see how long this lasts. But then what happened is I actually tried the product. Oh my gosh, do you remember the very first time you ever tried the product? Like, do you all remember the first time you put Mary Kay on your face? Like, what did you think? Like, what was the first, like, that first moment? And for me, when I put the product on my face, that's when everything changed at that moment. It was like angels were in my bathroom going, oh, and that's when I became very open to, gosh, this product's amazing. Now, remember, I worked in finance and accounting. I was an economics major. And so when my friend was like, oh, you can get it at half price, I just started, like, I made a spreadsheet, of like, what would I use from Christmas to Christmas? What gifts would I give? What people in my family, women might buy, what would I need for myself? And to me, I just got it on paper and it was just a very logical decision. And so when I said yes to Mary Kay, I just shared that with you only to say that it wasn't like I made this big, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to earn a car, I'm going to be a national sales director. It was more like I came in through the back door of Mary Kay. And so for you, if you're, especially if you're new, if you feel like you're ever holding back from sharing the opportunity with others, ask yourself why. Why would you hold yourself back from sharing the opportunity? Because I think even a lazy consultant gets so much for so little with access to so much, right? Let me say that again. Even a lazy consultant who doesn't do much gets so much for so little with access to so much. Kind of like what Stacey was saying earlier, like she thinks everyone on the face of the planet could benefit from Mary Kay, even just for a year, because of all the other things that you get from it. And so when I opened my starter kit, when it arrived, it was as if my heart opened up. It was as if I'd started to dream again, because there was a while, I don't think I realized I'd ever stopped dreaming. And like, can you think of a season in your life, like when you had maybe stopped dreaming? Where you didn't allow yourself to dream? Because it is true. I realized in the season right prior to Mary Kay, money it was very, very tight. It was an issue. We had purchased a home that was $58,000. Like that was the house that we bought when we were newlyweds. The house was $58,000. Like that's where we lived. And so I realized I didn't dream because I had no way I felt like I didn't have any access to any income to make a dream happen. And so suddenly I had this opportunity in front of me, available to me, and it gave me a vehicle to create dreams. And so one of the very first dreams I had in Mary Kay was, my dad's German. I've been to Germany multiple times, and I've been to Christmas markets in Europe. And if you've ever been to a German Christmas market, they're just delightful. They're quaint. I mean, like you walk around with like hot, it's called Glühwein. I guess it's like hot mulled cider that's spiked, I guess, and like, eat roasted almonds, and there's musicians and handmade ornaments and handmade nativity scenes. And it's just delightful. And I had this dream of, I really wanted to take my husband to Germany to go to the Christmas markets, and I started Mary Kay in February of 2002. And that December, I got to take Seth to Germany to the Christmas markets. And that was totally paid for by Mary Kay. And then from that, another dream was birthed in me, was to travel to the 7 wonders of the world. And behind me here on my vision board, I have a picture of the 7 wonders of the world. And this is my vision board, like all the things in my life that I really want to accomplish and want to do, and who I want to be and what I want my life to be about. I mean, do you have something visual like that in your life? Even if you don't look at it all the time, subconsciously, it's always there. And so, I've been to 4 of the 7 wonders of the world: the Great Wall of China, the Taj Mahal, the Colosseum in Rome, and Chichen Itza in Mexico. And all 4 of those trips, there was a combination of paid for by a top director trip, a travel voucher from Mary Mary Kay or just straight up paid for with Mary Kay money. Another dream was to be completely debt free, which we are, except for our house, but it's only because we invested in my husband's business, and that's debt free. And so basically, if we hadn't done that, we would be debt free in our house too. And so that's wonderful to have that freedom of really not really having debt. And so all those dreams were really tucked and locked away in my heart. Suddenly they became possible because I had a vehicle to make it happen. So here I am dreaming, and I would say I have this philosophy that people in Mary Kay live longer. I really do. Like, I've studied the blue zones around the world. Do you know what blue zones are? Those are regions in the world. There's maybe 6 or 7 places in the world where people typically live over 100 years old. And there's, I'd say, 6 to 8 qualities that these blue zone people have in common. And one of those qualities that people who live to be over 100 have in common is that they have community, and they're constantly among people who share the same values. And there's this connectedness, this network of friendship. And I really believe that Mary Kay people live longer than other people because of not only the connection that we have, but also because we have this joy, like because we're dreaming. And so when you dream, it does change your physiology. It changes the blood that rushes through your veins. It changes your hope and the joy that you have. And so here I am dreaming about Mary Kay and about all the things that I can use Mary Kay to do and access in my life. And I'm on this high. And so I go to work when I'm new, and I begin telling people, hey, I'm a Mary Kay person. And I was really excited about it. And the people that I worked with, they couldn't be less encouraging. I mean, I would say 10 out of 10 actually said, you're selling Mary Kay. And it was because I didn't really wear makeup. And obviously, if you saw my video in the beginning, I couldn't do hair and really didn't have any style at all. And it was just very unencouraging. But what they didn't know about me is that now I had started dreaming, and I was also hungry to create those opportunities that really had been close to me before. And so when I first stepped into a Mary Kay event, what I saw really turned any preconceived notions I might have had about the world of women. Because remember, years prior, I had kind of blocked out women. I had put all women in one box and had shut that box into a closet. And in some ways, I had kind of become more masculine because I remember I wasn't like them, and I hung out with guys. And so I didn't own a skirt. I didn't wear makeup, and that's fine. But that's just who I was at the time. And so at this Mary Kay event, I saw women who actually were encouraging one another. They were happy when something good happened to them. I mean, I was kind of used to the other jobs I had. Like when a woman got a promotion, instead of everyone being happy for her, there was all this dissension and all this politics and all this like whispering behind the scenes of like, how'd she get that promotion and what did she do? And I think it's amazing that like in Mary Kay, when we do new consultant education, within the first hour, I'm telling someone, hey, you want to move up in Mary Kay? This is how you do it. Like I'm telling someone, if you want a promotion, here's what you have to do to get a promotion, whereas at other places, it was always like a mystery and you never knew. And so I saw female leaders who were strong in the Lord. I saw female leaders who taught me what it actually looked to live out God first, and then family, then career, that everything works more harmoniously. I know when I worked at a state university, if I had mentioned God, I think I probably could have been fired for that. And I love that when I walk through the doors of my office in my home, I don't have to like take off one part of my hat and leave it at the door and hide that part of me. I can be all of me all the time in Mary Kay, and I love that. And what I also saw was a company whose values were actually lived out, not just put on the website or on the internet as a meaningless, square of this is our values. I actually saw women who lived that out, and I was very attracted to that. And so I think it's funny how, God has brought the desires of my heart full circle, because what began as a hobby or this thing I do on the side really has grown into one of, the greatest joys of my life. And I know Mary Cash always said that she loved watching women come in like a tight little rosebud, and through the process of growth, just kind of blooming into their potential. And so I'm really honored that I'm assigned by God to do that. And that is my life's work. And so not only did God give me the desires of my heart, which was working with with people, having variety, and to continue to be challenged and pushed. But more importantly, the fourth thing was being able to be fulfilled, that I get to help increase women's confidence and to change the way they think through the sanctifying process, really, of Mary Kay. And so my beginnings in the company were more excitement and not skill. They really weren't skill at all. In fact, my first party legitimately was me bringing in a cardboard box. We sat in a circle and I was like, this is eye makeup remover, and passed it around. I mean, that is about what it was. And I remember, by the grace of God, I sold $500 that day. And this is like almost 20 years ago. And I drove home to my parents' house because it was back where I was from in the country. And I sat down at the table. And what do you do when you sit down, like after your parties? You count the money, right? And so I remember sitting there counting the money. And as the numbers got higher and higher, I was sitting with my dad at the table. And now, one thing I didn't tell you at the beginning is most of my life, I tried to seek the approval of my dad. And I don't know if any of you all can relate to that, but most of my childhood, I wanted my father to say, I think you're awesome. I love you. I think you're great. I'm so proud of you. And I know my dad thinks all those things about me, and I know that he loves me, but he just wasn't a very verbal person, and that's okay. I mean, he has done the very best he could do, but I always craved that. And so I'm sitting there with my dad at the table. I'm counting the money, and like when you say something that you don't really mean to say out loud, but it just kind of comes out. And so it was meant more like a thought bubble, but instead I said it, and I was like, $500. Gosh, maybe I could quit my job and just do this. And my dad heard me kind of mumble that. And he looked at me like with these ice blue German eyes. And he looked at me from across the table and he said, prove it. Dead silence. And it was like a moment where we locked eyes. And I was like, I'm going to show you. And I think in that moment, I just decided that I'm going to prove it to my dad, and that means I'm going to earn a Cadillac. I mean, it was just a nanosecond decision. And so I was like, what do I need to do? Because I'm going to prove it. And remember, I'm really competitive. So for me, it was just like, I'm going to show him. And it's funny because remember how Stacy said earlier, she said that your reason why or your dream doesn't have to be noble. I don't think it was very noble. It wasn't like, I'm going to work on world peace. It was more like, I'm going to show my dad. But that's okay because I had a goal and I had a deadline and I had that fire in me for that reason. Look at what God used to kind of build what really was the foundation of our national area. And so I'd always heard, so new consultants, listen to me. I'd always heard the key to success in Mary Kay is 3 + 3 + 3 every single week consistently. So 3 beauty sessions or 3 group appointments a week, 3 career chats a week, and 300 in sales. And now I'd say it's 300 wholesale. So 600 retail from those appointments, but that's what I heard. And so I decided I was going to show my dad. And so because I decided that, you have to take an action. And so the action that I took was deciding, okay, if I am serious about this and I'm going to show him, then I will make a commitment that every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on the dot, I will be on the phone and I will be connecting with people and I will be booking and following up with people. And I remember every Sunday night at 6:30, 30 full minutes before I needed to be on the phone, my stomach would start turning and getting upset. And you'd have that, what I'm saying, the awful, that pit feeling oh, I'm going to vomit, because I knew what was coming in 30 minutes. I started worrying about it. But regardless, I was in that $58,000 house, and I would march at 7 o'clock into my glorified closet area, which was my office. And I would set my stove timer, because that was before cell phones. I guess. Maybe we had cell phones. We didn't use them the way we use them now. I would put my stove timer on for 30 minutes. And remember, I'm competitive. So for me, some of y'all would hate a timer, but for me, that worked for me. And it was like a race against the timer. And I'd make a pact with myself. Okay, I'm going to get going. And if, and what happens, guys, once you start going, once you start connecting with people, you start getting some yeses. And when you get a yes, it you want to do more of it. Okay. So the key is just get going. And I convince myself I only have to do it for 30 minutes. If I decide, freedom people, listen, freedom choice. If I decide in 30 minutes by 7:30, I don't want to keep going, I don't have to. And that's what I told myself. And not a single time did I stop at 30 minutes. And so by 30 minutes, I'd set the stove timer for another 30 minutes and do it again and again and then again. 4 times I set the stove timer for 30 minutes. So every Sunday night, literally for 2 hours, I would be on the phone. And that would be just following up with customers and checking on people and, rebooking something that had fallen off, setting up career chats, getting my my guests reserved for me, and that type of things. And so that's what I would do. And I would say that I really wasn't the best seller. I really wasn't that good at any of the skills. But what I was good at is one thing. I decided one time I ran out of bookings. I did not book for my bookings, and I ran out of bookings, and I hated the feeling of being out of bookings. I hated that feeling more than I hated getting on the phone. And I decided I'm going to be a master at booking from bookings, because if I can book enough, then that means I can practice. And I don't really care about the money. I just want to be able to practice on enough people, because eventually I know I can learn the skill of the selling and the skill of the customer service and all of the other skills, but I need people to practice on. And so I just learned to bribe people basically for a short amount of time, just so I could get enough practice. And I thought that will be worth it. I don't want to bribe people forever, but I literally would say, what would I need to give you to make it worth your while? Like, I want you to get more out of this, and I want you to get more out of it than the effort it is for you to put into it. So what would I need to give you to get you to say yes? Okay, like next child, my left arm, I just make jokes out of things. And guys, that's how I began booking, just so I could practice. And remember, anything that you do in a short period of time over and over and over again, it builds consistency. Okay. And remember that consistency builds momentum, and momentum makes you look better than you really are. Okay. And so just like a plane, when a plane is going down the runway, the most energy the plane needs to expend is getting off the ground. Once the plane's up in the air, or even landing the plane takes like no energy, but it's getting it off the ground. And I saw getting my business off the ground with bookings and then down. Okay, getting the plane off the ground again with bookings, and then down. I saw how much energy that was. I'm like, never again am I landing my plane. Okay. And so I started, after doing these parties, you start getting better at it, started making more money. And I started putting checks on my husband's desk. And at first the checks were $300, and then the checks were $600, and then $1,000. And now the checks I put on my husband's desk are like $15,000, or the check I put on his desk in July was $42,000. And so, that is exciting when you're able to be like, okay, here we go. And when you are able to give that type of freedom really for your family, for the things that for you, and how you can bless others with that. And so for you and for your business, I really want you to be thinking, like, what's just one baby tiny action that would really make a decision that I could commit to on a regular basis. Now, remember, my beginnings truly were, 7 p.m. on Sunday nights. That was a commitment I made to myself, because I had the vision. I could see me picking up that pink Cadillac with my dad being there, and him being proud of me. And so that decision to call at 7 o'clock on Sunday nights for really a relatively short period of time. If you look at the timeline of my life, the time that I really call it every Sunday at 7 is really a very short period for that small time investment, for the benefit I had down the road. When I pulled myself off the couch and marched begrudgingly to my office, I did the thing I didn't want to do first, and I got it out of the way. And now, I get to live a life where I get to do what I want to do when I want to do it. So the moral of the story is, don't land your plane the 3 + 3 + 3, or 1 + 1 + 1 even. Anything you do weekly over and over again, it puts you in the position to really make your dreams a reality. And one of my very favorite Bible verses is from Luke 12, and it says, to everyone who has been given much, much will be required. And from the one who's been entrusted with much, much will be asked. And my life's mission really is to stand before the Lord, and for him to say, you did the most with what I gave you. And I have found that it's really been through my Mary Kay journey through this vehicle that I've been able to exercise and grow the things inside of me that really matter the most in life. And I pray that you also discover that same opportunity, you know, inside of you. My journey is just one example of what someone can do with Mary Kay, and our journeys are each as unique as each of us are. But I do want to invite you to explore that and to make those small baby decisions, because, you know, after 19 years, they have added up over time.